Hello friends and fellow bakers, it's Chef Tom from ChefInstructorTom.com. Welcome back to the channel. Thanks for checking in, I do appreciate it. And also thank you for liking and subscribing so much, I really appreciate that as well. Well, having spent a lot of time with baking students in the past few weeks, I've been reminded that we all need some reminding about mixing methods. Now there are two I want to talk about in particular today, creaming and cut-in. Now we've covered them in other videos, but I do think it's a good idea just to talk and not really think about recipes when you're trying to develop technique. Sometimes it's better just to sit and sort of theorize about what you're going to do in the kitchen. That's why we're sitting here in the big chair. So let's talk about creaming first. It's the method you use when you have a lot of butter, sugar, and eggs in your recipe. Now, the first key to good creaming is to have your ingredients at room temperature. That means taking them out well before you want to mix. And I'm saying at least an hour. Just let them sit out at room temperature. Now I know that does take a little bit of planning. You want the cookies now. I get it. And some folks are worried about stuff going bad. They're not going to go bad in that hour. Now if you find that your eggs are still cold after letting them sit out at room temperature for an hour, you can use a bowl of warm water to get them up to temperature. Now leave them in the shell, of course. I have to say that because folks have done the opposite and it's not so good. So leave them in the shell, bring them up to temperature, and when things are all at room temperature, they are going to cream so much better. This is a key step. Once you have them at room temperature, you can cream the butter and sugar together, and this means more than just mixing them up. It really is important that you build an emulsion. The emulsion is what holds the whole thing together. It's really the glue that makes your cookies or cake or whatever you're making work. The butter and sugar will hold on to some air and give you fluffier products. Now I like to cream until I can't really see sugar crystals anymore. That might seem like a long time, but it's definitely worth it. Now you're going to scrape down the sides of the mixer with a rubber spatula several times during this period, and that way you'll get even better emulsion. The mixer works well, but it's not perfect. You have to do some of the work as well. It is more work, but good food is worth it, don't you think? Next, you're going to add your eggs one at a time. And remember, they're at room temperature, so they're going to cream really, really well. You don't want to add them all at once because introducing that much liquid in any form to the fat and sugar mixture will break it. You want it to stay emulsified. One cool thing is that eggs have a natural emulsifier in the yolk. You pastry students, I can see you out there, you know it's lecithin. When you add an egg, it will seem to disappear in the butter and sugar. That's a good thing. Scraping down the sides is key to this step as well. You'll add the remaining eggs as you go along, and with this method you can make lots of cookies, cakes, muffins, and all kinds of cream method items. The other method I wanted to talk about is the cut-in method, also known as the biscuit method, because you can make biscuits with it. Check out my video on biscuits to see the method in action. Let's talk specifics though. I wouldn't say that the cut-in method is the exact opposite of the cream method, but the cut-in method starts with all cold ingredients as opposed to all room temperature ingredients. Now I like to scale my ingredients and put them on a tray and put them in the refrigerator. Yep, even the flour, the sugar, if there's baking powder in there, the salt, the butter, ice water, it all goes in there. And that way I can assure that I have everything cold when I start. The key to this method is to keep the butter cold especially, and not letting it melt when you mix the dough. That's right, we want to have chunks or at least granules of butter running throughout the dough. And there are some different ways of doing the cut-in. I tend to go more towards the flaky, so I like chunks of butter in mine. You'll sift your dry ingredients, of course, and then you're going to cut the butter into 1-inch chunks. These will get smaller as you mix the dough. Now some people like to do this by mixing by hand. My hands a little too warm to do that, and I wouldn't recommend that anyone really do it by hand. You can do it easier in a machine or use a bench scraper. It's going to work a lot better for you. The hand is going to melt your butter a little too quickly, I think. If you use your mixer, you can chill the mixing bowl before you mix as a precaution. And again, I cannot stress enough how everything needs to be cold before you start. You're going to use the paddle attachment. You can put that in the fridge too if you wanted to. You're going to mix on slow until the butter cuts into the butter, or the butter gets cut into the flour. And what happens is you're coating that flour with butter, and they're getting entwined. The chunks, those 1-inch chunks, are going to get smaller as you go along too. They're going to be about the size of hazelnuts when you're done. When they get that size, you can add the liquid. And for pie dough, that would be water, but some doughs might use milk or buttermilk. Again, the buttermilk biscuits we made were really tasty. But that milk or water gets put in last, and you're just going to mix it until it just comes together. Oh, I wanted to mention too that the water should not just be tap water. It should be water with ice in it. I mean, super, super cold. And then once you get the liquid into the butter flour mixture, you mix it until it just comes together. Now, a lot of people will keep mixing it until it's smooth. They think it should be a smooth dough. It should not. It should be really super crumbly. Mix it until just the water is absorbed into the flour. And it might not all come together. You can pour the mixture onto your board and then kind of bring it together by your hands. Now, do you see chunks of butter in your dough? I mean, in your mind's eye as you're mixing this dough in the theoretical sense? I hope you do. If you do, you did it right. If you have very kind of sticky, soft dough, then you probably overmixed it. And that's a key problem with mixing a cut-in dough. Well, if you have the chunks, you're good to go. You're going to wrap it in plastic and give it some rest. I like to rest it overnight in the refrigerator. Some folks just maybe 3 or 4 hours in the fridge. The bottom line is to when you work with cold dough. Now, I'll have a video soon about pie dough and pie filling. Yes, we are going to make pie. And I just wanted to talk about a couple mixing methods. That's all we have for today. And I hope that you do try these methods in the future. If you have any questions, be sure to post them below. And I love reading your comments. And also like and subscribe if you can. And thanks so much for your interest. I really appreciate it. Well, happy baking.